After being freed from the black chain, Jin Tong took a moment to stretch out her limbs as she said, "About time, uncle. What do you need me to do? I'm itching for a fight." "Ignore him for now. Focus on getting me a high zenith pill first," Han Li hurriedly instructed. At this moment, everyone else was still trapped in Feng Tiandu's cage of chains, so this was the perfect opportunity for him to secure a high zenith pill. Jin Tong looked back and forth between Feng Tiandu and the pill cauldron for a moment, clearly feeling a little conflicted. In the end, she conceded, "Fine. I've been dying to sink my teeth into that pill cauldron this entire time, so I guess I'll just eat that first." Everyone present was astonished to hear this. Everyone had seen how she had eaten Xiao Jinhan's treasures and nascent souls, so they knew that she wasn't bluffing, and if she were to eat the cauldron now, then all of the remaining pills inside would be ruined. "No, don't do that," Luo Qinghai hurriedly yelled in a panicked voice. At the same time, the blue light around his body reared up in powerful blue waves, and it seemed that the chain wrapped around his body was about to burst apart at any moment. Feng Tiandu immediately refocused his efforts on bolstering his chains, making sure to keep Luo Qinghai firmly under control. After all, out of all of the people in this palace, Luo Qinghai was the one that he was most wary of. Feng Tiandu and Luo Qinghai possessed the most advanced cultivation bases among all of the golden immortals present, so even though they were also affected by Han Li's time spirit domain, the impact that it had on them was far less significant. Han Li was also feeling quite exasperated as he hurriedly called out, "There are still pills that are yet to be formed inside that cauldron, so you can't eat it. I can't do this. I can't do that. What can I do? It's so annoying." Jin Tong grumbled to herself, and it was unclear whether she was going to follow Han Li's instruction as she flew directly toward the sea of fire. A cold sneer appeared on Xiao's face upon seeing this, and he remained still on the spot as he observed Jin Tong from afar, making no effort to go after her. Given the childish nature that she had displayed, Xiao presumed that she had no idea just how formidable that sea of fire was. Once she flew into it, she would undoubtedly suffer severe burns. And once that happened, he would swoop in and restrain her before slowly taming her into his spirit pet over time. However, to his surprise, Han Li also set off after her, then appeared in front of her in a flash. He then made a strange hand seal, and a burst of silver flames merged over the palms of his hands as he thrust them into the sea of fire. As soon as his hands came into contact with the edge of the sea of fire, his brows instantly furrowed tightly as an agonized look appeared on his face. These flames were far more formidable than he had anticipated. He spread his hands apart, and the silver flame instantly formed a ring-shaped, fiery barrier that parted the surrounding flames to open up a circular hole that was slowly expanding. However, as he did this, his time spirit domain was clearly impacted, and everyone inside it was freed up a little. "Hurry up. I can't keep this up for long." Han Li's hands had already become bright red, and a large section of his sleeves had also been incinerated into ashes as he persevered with tightly gritted teeth. Jin Tong immediately spread her wings and flew toward the hole, but right at this moment, a cloud of dense gray mist suddenly surged toward her from the side, then appeared in front of her before taking on the form of Xiao. "Piss off!" Jin Tong roared, but Xiao refused to budge, releasing plumes of gray mist out of his sleeves, and the mist instantly transformed into 7 or 8 giant gray pythons that pounced at Jin Tong. Jin Tong was infuriated and immediately began attacking the gray pythons. Meanwhile, Han Li was struggling to hold on, and his hands had become virtually transparent, while his time spirit domain was also becoming thinner and thinner. "Don't worry about me. Go and secure the high zenith pill," Luo Qinghai hurriedly yelled, and the 4 Vast Flow Palace golden immortals immediately stopped in their tracks, then channeled their law powers to oppose Han Li's time spirit domain as they rushed toward the pill cauldron. Luo Qinghai took a glance in that direction, then raised a question to Nan Kemeng through voice transmission. "Have you found a way to break the restriction?" Nan Kemeng shook his head in response. "I've managed to spot a few weak points, but I haven't been able to think of a way to break the restriction yet." "That's fine. Just tell those 4 the weak points that you've spotted so they at least have some targets," Luo Qinghai replied. Even though the conversation was taking place through voice transmission, Feng Tiandu could see that they were plotting something, and he mused, "Looks like this disciple of yours has some interesting abilities. Grand Palace Master Luo, no wonder you bring him with you everywhere you go." He made a hand seal as he spoke, and a black chain shot out of his robes before instantly piercing into Nan Kemeng's dantian. The nascent soul inside was immediately sealed away by an origin separation law chain, while the light in his eyes instantly faded. "Menger!" Luo Qinghai called out as his expression changed drastically. At the same time, the blue light radiating from his body became even brighter, and they crashed against the origin separation law chain around him like an endless barrage of waves. Feng Tiandu's expression remained unchanged as he injected more immortal spiritual power into his chains to suppress Luo Qinghai. But internally, he was feeling very frustrated. Never had he imagined the restrictions around the pill cauldron would be this formidable, to the point that two of his sect's golden immortals had met their demise here without even being able to put up a fight. As a result, the overall power of the Dawnfall sect was significantly diminished, and it was now the Vast Flow Palace that had the upper hand. On top of that, Hanli was also proving to be very troublesome, so there was a good chance that his plans could be completely foiled here. Before he had a chance to fully suppress Luo Qinghai, a resounding boom suddenly rang out from the chain that was connected to Taoist Huyan's body. Yunni's Lotus Branch Fire Sword had been inserted into the chain no more than a foot away from Taoist Huyan's lower abdomen, and the pink floral projection it abruptly bloomed before exploding, instantly snapping the black chain. At the same time, Yunni drifted down from above with blood trickling down from the corner of her lips as she stumbled backward. Taoist Huyan immediately arrived by her side to catch her, and there was a pained look in his eyes as he yelled, "What are you doing? Don't be so reckless." "I'm fine as long as you're all right," Yunni said in a gentle voice as she wiped the blood from the corner of her lips. Taoist Huyan's brows were tightly furrowed, and he wanted to say something more, but she shook her head to stop him. Not far away from them, Ouyang Kuishan was still involuntarily charging toward the sea of fire, but his gaze had been fixed on Taoist Huyan this entire time with a hint of envy and sorrow in his eyes. Taoist Huyan and Yunni exchanged a glance with one another, following which the two of them arrived on either side of Ouyang Kuishan in a flash. With a flick of her wrist, Yunni sent a red streamer flying through the air, and it wrapped itself tightly around Ouyang Kuishan to lock him firmly into place. At the same time, Taoist Huyan made a grabbing motion, and a fiery flying sword appeared in his grasp. He raised the sword up high before slashing it down upon the black chain that was protruding out of Ouyang Kuishan's dantian, and a thin crimson line instantly appeared on the chain before it was split into two. "You have my thanks." Ouyang Kuishan gave the two of them a grateful nod as the black patterns all over his body slowly faded. Feng Tiandu's expression darkened even further upon seeing this, and he made a beckoning motion with one hand, upon which the two origin separation law chains that had been severed by Hanli returned to his grasp. "Finally, I've recovered the full set," Feng Tiandu murmured to himself as he stroked the pair of chains. He then raised a hand, and the two chains instantly reared up like a pair of spirit snakes, then crawled up into his sleeve before trailing down onto the ground like his other chains. Feng Tiandu took a glance down at the chains beneath him, following which he raised his head and began to cackle in a gravelly voice. He reached out with both hands, and blood began to gather between his fingers before flowing down onto the black chains beneath him. A burst of crimson light spread over the chains, and a burst of urgent clattering suddenly rang out as countless dark red chains swept over the ground like an enormous mass of spirit snakes. Luo Qinghai and the others, who were still trapped in the cage of chains, were instantly wrapped up in layers upon layers of additional chains, encasing each of them in a dark red cocoon. Taoist Huyan immediately turned his sword upside down upon seeing this, then pierced the tip of the sword into the ground. A crimson light barrier instantly spread from the tip of his sword, and it was giving off waves of scorching heat that forced back the oncoming chains. Meanwhile, Each of the four vast Flow Palace Golden Immortals was holding a jade badge, all of which were radiating dazzling blue light, forming a square crystal house that also kept the chains at bay. What do we do? One of the vast Flow Palace Golden Immortals, an elderly man, asked as he took a hesitant glance in Luo Qinghai's direction. The palace master told us to prioritize securing the pills, so we'll just have to follow his instruction, the fair-skinned scholar replied. With that, the four golden immortals began to discuss ways to ward off the sea of fire to secure the high zenith pills within. Meanwhile, Jintong felt like the palace was too confined a space for her to fight Qi Tianxia to her heart's content, so the two of them had taken their battle outside of the palace. With the mass of dark red chains rapidly closing in on him, Han Li could only heave a faint sigh as he withdrew his hands. And with that, the opening in the sea of fire slowly sealed itself again. Immediately thereafter, he flew over to Taoist Huyan's trio, then summoned a pair of immortal origin stones, which he was using to replenish his immortal spiritual power. At the same time, he had also already withdrawn his time spirit domain. Simultaneously maintaining his spirit domain, using 3 azure bamboo cloud swarm swords at once, and releasing his flame of essence had been extremely taxing on his immortal spiritual power. Now that the gold-devouring immortal is gone, it's time for us to settle the score, Feng Tiandu said as he cast his gaze toward Han Li with burning fury in his eyes. As he was speaking, he began to drift toward Han Li and the others, while his lower body was concealed within the sea of chains down below.